Welcome back to the BookCast. Today we are unpacking every layer of the incredible novel, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Get ready for a deep dive into its characters, themes, and the hidden meanings behind the story.
It's an absolute cornerstone of detective fiction. Yeah, and for excellent reason. We're going to explore not just the ingenious plots Arthur Conan Doyle masterfully crafts, but also how he, fundamentally shaped the genre. You'll discover how much brilliant detail is packed into these adventures and what they reveal about the mind behind the world's greatest consulting detective, and of course, his faithful chronicler, Dr. Watson.
Okay, so before we really plunge into the intricate plots of these adventures, let's truly set the stage. Our central focus today is, naturally, the brilliant characters that populate the adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
Especially the incredible consulting detective himself, Sherlock Holmes, and his loyal, indispensable chronicler, Dr. John Watson. Their dynamic is just, well, it's the very heart of the series.
Absolutely. The relationship between Holmes and Watson is far more than just detective and assistant. It's a symbiotic partnership that serves as our primary lens into Holmes's extraordinary intellect.
Okay.
Watson isn't merely a narrator, he's our entry point, constantly illustrating the stark contrast between merely seeing and Holmes's profound capacity for observation.
That distinction.
This distinction is absolutely pivotal to grasping the very essence of Holmes's genius. It's not just about what he looks at, but how he interprets and synthesizes every minute detail.
And it's fascinating how often Watson, despite his intelligence and his medical training, finds himself utterly bewildered by Holmes's instantaneous deductions, even when he's been privy to the exact same information. Remember those opening moments when Holmes, almost immediately upon Watson's arrival, just casually deduces details about his recent activities?
Oh, yeah.
He points out Watson's exposure to vile weather, or that his wife was on the verge of firing their servant, Mary Jane. Watson is always left astonished, and honestly, so are we as readers.
Absolutely. Those moments are Doyle's brilliant way of showcasing Holmes's method. Take the vile weather deduction. Holmes directs Watson to the 6 almost parallel cuts on the inside of his left shoe.
Okay, it cuts on the shoe.
Right. He explains these were obviously caused by someone who has very carelessly scraped around the edges of the sole in order to remove crusted mud from it. That meticulous scraping, a common act after a muddy walk, told Holmes everything he needed to know about the recent conditions outside.
Just from the way the mud was scraped off.
Exactly. As for the servant, the nature of the cuts themselves, to Holmes's discerning eye, spoke volumes about a clumsy, perhaps even malicious hand at work, a malignant boot-slitting specimen of the London slavey, as he puts it.
Wow, okay.
Holmes doesn't just see a scuff, he sees the story behind it, deducing habits, recent events, even personality from seemingly insignificant wear and tear.
It's an incredible level of forensic detail, really long before forensics was even a formal field. And it extends to Watson's profession too, doesn't it? Holmes seems to identify him as a doctor practically on site. How does he pull that off?
It truly is a masterclass in observation and inference. Holmes spells it out with this delightful, almost arrogant precision. He says, if a gentleman walks into my room smelling of iodoform,
Right.
with a black mark of nitrate of silver upon his right forefinger and a bulge on the side of his top hat to show where he has secreted his stethoscope, I must be dull indeed if I do not pronounce him to be an active member of the medical profession.
So multiple clues pointing the same way.
Exactly. It's deductive reasoning at its purest. Not just seeing isolated facts, but synthesizing them. The distinctive odor of iodoform, a common disinfectant, the telltale silver nitrate stains from cautery, and that specific bulge indicating a stethoscope, all combining to form an irrefutable conclusion about Watson's profession. It's about building a coherent narrative from disparate, almost imperceptible data points, turning observation into absolute certainty.
And Holmes himself is such a character like no other. He's this fascinating blend of almost cold, analytical precision and an almost childlike, fervent enthusiasm for a good puzzle.
Right.
He gets positively gleeful. You can almost see the spark in his eye when a new problem arrives at Baker Street, particularly if it's complex enough to really challenge him.
Indeed. He famously claims to abhor emotions, especially love, viewing them as disturbances to his cold, precise, but admirably balanced mind.
Sand in the mechanism, yeah.
He sees strong emotion as akin to sand in the delicate mechanism of his intellect. Yet, as we'll soon discover, there's one woman who profoundly challenges that detachment.
Oh, yes.
Holmes's life, as he himself articulates, is one long effort to escape from the commonplaces of existence. These little problems, as he often dismissively yet lovingly refers to them, are his ultimate escape from the ennui of daily life.
His drug, almost.
Exactly. They are his mental gymnasium, his way of constantly exercising an unparalleled intellect, finding profound meaning in the most intricate webs of facts and deductions. He lives for the chase, for the intricate challenge that leads to an unforeseen or unpredictable result.
Okay, let's begin our journey through the individual adventures then. We start with what the source material designates as Adventure 11, which is quite famously the very first story published in this collection.
Right, the first one in the Strand magazine.
This one is absolutely groundbreaking because it introduces us and Sherlock Holmes to the woman, Irene Adler. It sets such a unique tone for the entire series.
And what a powerful introduction it is. For Holmes, Irene Adler eclipses and predominates the whole of her sex. That's an astonishing declaration from a man so famously emotionally detached, who considers emotion an abhorrent element to his perfectly balanced mind.
It really is.
She is, in Watson's evocative words, the only woman to him, not in a romantic sense, which Holmes would find illogical, but as the singular individual who truly challenged and ultimately outwitted him. She represents his one intellectual defeat, and that, for Holmes, is a profound mark of respect.
The setup for this case is truly operatic, isn't it? Fitting for a former opera singer. A masked visitor arrives at Baker Street late at night, speaking German, revealing himself to be Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund von Ormstein, the hereditary king of Bohemia. He's in a precarious situation.
A truly delicate predicament for a royal. The king is on the cusp of marrying Clotilde de Lothman von Saxe-Meiningen, a Scandinavian princess whose family adheres to strict principles.
Right, very proper.
However, Irene Adler, an American opera singer with whom he was romantically entangled, possesses a compromising photograph of them both. She threatens to use it to ruin him and prevent his marriage.
So the stakes are huge.
Huge. Holmes's mission, therefore, isn't just about recovering a photograph. It's a high-stakes matter of state, an immense personal scandal for a reigning monarch. Holmes must approach this not as a simple theft, but as a strategic operation.
And Holmes immediately employs one of his most famous techniques, disguise. He first appears as a drunken groom.
Classic Holmes.
Carefully gathering intelligence around Irene's home, Bryony Lodge, in Sergeant's Inn. He extracts every bit of local gossip from cabmen and tradesmen, those often overlooked sources of street-level information.
And what he uncovers is significant. Irene has a gentleman caller, Godfrey Norton, a lawyer from the Inner Temple who visits her regularly. Holmes is meticulously processing this, weighing possibilities, when Doyle throws in a brilliant twist that genuinely surprises Holmes himself.
Yeah, this part is great. In a truly unexpected turn of events, Holmes, still deep in his disguise as a groom, finds himself unexpectedly pressed into being a witness at Irene Adler's spontaneous marriage to that very lawyer, Godfrey Norton.
It's fantastic.
It's a moment of pure, delightful absurdity.
Holmes recounts it as the most preposterous position he'd ever found himself in, and he even earns a sovereign for his trouble. This sudden marriage fundamentally shifts the dynamics of the case. She's now a married woman, and the king's leverage over her might diminish. However, Holmes astutely understands that the photograph still represents a threat to the king's future.
Right, it still exists.
So he presses on, devising a cunning psychological plan to locate its hiding spot within her home.
So how does Holmes plan to uncover the photograph without just, breaking in and searching? He relies on a brilliant insight into human nature, specifically a woman's instinct when her home is threatened.
Precisely. Holmes enlists Watson's help for what he terms a little unpleasantness, a euphemism for a psychological ruse.
Okay.
Holmes orchestrates a fake street brawl outside Bryony Lodge, dropping to the ground with simulated blood on his face, feigning serious injury. Irene Adler, displaying genuine compassion, rushes out to help.
She seems like a decent person, actually.
She does. And as she ascends the steps, Holmes signals Watson to throw a smoke rocket into the house and cry, "Fire!" This isn't a random act. Holmes had employed this psychological tactic before, noting its effectiveness in the Darlington substitution scandal and the Arnsworth Castle business.
Ah, so it's a tested method.
Oh, yes. The core of the ruse is that, as Holmes explains, when a woman believes her house is on fire, her instinct is at once to rush to the thing which she values most, regardless of its practical worth.
Okay, that makes sense.
Irene, in a moment of pure unthinking instinct, believing her home is ablaze, rushes directly to a specific spot, a recess behind a sliding panel just above the right bell pull, and partially retrieves the photograph.
Gotcha. So he sees exactly where it is.
This instantly reveals the photograph's hiding spot without Holmes needing to conduct a physical search. He sees its location, calmly declares it a false alarm from within, and observes her replacing it. Confident, he now holds the key, he slips away and returns to Watson, fully expecting to return the next day with the king and retrieve the item with ease.
But the true climax of the story is utterly unexpected. When Holmes and the king return to Brainy Lodge the next morning to retrieve the photo, Irene Adler is gone.
Vanished.
She's fled to the continent with her new husband, leaving behind only a letter.
This is where Irene Adler's genius truly eclipses Holmes's. She leaves a letter for Holmes, explaining that she knew who he was, she had recognized him despite his disguise, noting she had been well warned by the king's previous cruder attempts to recover the photograph.
So she was onto him.
Completely. She explains that she kept the original compromising photo to safeguard myself and to preserve a weapon which will always secure me from any steps which he might take in the future.
Fair enough.
But crucially, she leaves behind a different photograph, a photograph of herself as a keepsake for Holmes, noting it was a picture the king might care to possess.
So she deliberately leaves her own photo for Holmes, the one she took of herself, not the compromising photo the king desperately wanted. That's an extraordinary, almost playful act of defiance.
It is, and that's the profound takeaway of this story. Holmes is outwitted, not by a criminal mind he can neatly deduce and trap, but by a woman's superior intelligence, her foresight, and her intuitive understanding of human nature, even of Holmes himself.
Wow.
He refers to her as the woman because she is the singular individual who has ever truly bested him intellectually. He keeps her photograph, the one she left him, not the king's, as a constant, tangible reminder of his one true defeat. It's a remarkable testament to her character, and it grounds the otherwise almost superhuman Holmes in a moment of very human vulnerability and respect.
What a story to start the collection.
Yeah.
Okay, moving from a royal scandal and a battle of wits to something equally bizarre, we plunge into the case of Jabez Wilson and the Red-Headed League.
Ah, yes.
This adventure begins with a client who possesses an almost comically shocking head of bright red hair, seeking help for a job that sounds almost too good and too ridiculous to be true.
This case offers a fantastic illustration of Holmes's inductive reasoning, taking a collection of seemingly insignificant, even absurd details, and transforming them into a cohesive picture of a complex and highly audacious crime. Our client, Jabez Wilson, a verbose pawnbroker with notably large hands,
Right. Watson notes the hands.
presents his bewildering tale to Holmes, utterly confused by his recent abrupt unemployment from a rather unique position.
And what an employment it was. He describes this utterly ridiculous job copying the Encyclopedia Britannica by hand for an unbelievable £4 a week.
£4? A fortune, then.
The only qualification, having strikingly red hair. The job required him to be in a specific office for set hours, doing literally nothing else. He even describes it as purely nominal services, a rather pleasant way to earn a substantial living.
What immediately alerts Holmes's finely tuned intellect is the unusual nature of the office itself. It contained just 2 wooden chairs and a deal table, a stark contrast to the exorbitant salary.
Very sparse.
The manager, Duncan Ross, was hyper-focused on Wilson's hair, going to great lengths to ensure its authenticity, even warning him that they have twice been deceived by wigs and once by paint.
They were serious about the red hair.
This meticulous attention to such a bizarre detail, combined with the sheer number of red-headed applicants choking Fleet Street, signals to Holmes that something is profoundly amiss. The extravagance of the payment for such trivial work is the first major clue.
And the assistant in Wilson's pawn shop, Vincent Spaulding, plays a curious role in this whole affair. He's remarkably willing to work for half wages.
Big red flag right there.
And he has this peculiar hobby of photography, which Wilson mentions often requires him to spend a lot of time in the cellar developing his pictures.
That's precisely where Holmes's observation truly begins to piece things together. While interviewing Wilson, Holmes shrewdly notices that Spaulding's trousers were worn, wrinkled, and stained at the knees.
The knees, okay.
The seemingly minor detail, combined with the assistant's unusual willingness to work for half wages, immediately activates Holmes's internal alarm bells. Holmes then wastes no time. He and Watson visit Saxe-Coburg Square, the location of Wilson's pawnshop. Holmes paces the pavement, tapping his cane against it, checking for vibrations or hollow sounds beneath his feet, confirming his suspicions about the ground. He then takes a detour to visit the City and Suburban Bank, which he quickly realizes about Wilson's pawn shop at the back, confirming the proximity.
So for you, what connects a red-headed league, an encyclopedia, and worn-out trouser knees to a major bank? It seems like quite a leap to anyone else.
Well, the crucial question here becomes, why would anyone pay so much for such trivial, purposeless work? Holmes quickly deduces that the entire Red-Headed League was an elaborate and brilliant distraction.
Distraction, right.
The job was ingeniously designed simply to get Mr. Wilson out of his pawn shop for a set number of hours each day at predictable times. His assistant, Vincent Spaulding, whose real name is John Clay, a notorious criminal described by Holmes as at the head of his profession despite his youth, and whose grandfather was, amusingly, a royal duke.
No way.
Oh, yes. Clay had been systematically tunneling from the pawn shop cellar directly into the bank's vault.
The cellar photography excuse.
Exactly. That vault, Holmes confirms, contains a massive reserve of French gold coins, specifically 2,000 Napoleons, a prime target for a heist. The worn knees on Spaulding's trousers indicated extensive crawling or digging.
Okay.
The loud knock on the pavement outside the pawn shop was Holmes's way of determining if the cellar extended far enough to reach the bank's property. The timing of the League's sudden dissolution, Holmes realizes, points to a heist planned to occur over a weekend when the bank would be closed and quiet.
And that's the moment of revelation, when Holmes lays out the entire intricate plan with devastating simplicity. He immediately puts a counterplan into motion.
Indeed. Holmes, Watson, Inspector Jones from Scotland Yard, whom Holmes describes as brave as a bulldog and as tenacious as a lobster, a backhanded compliment if ever there was one.
Typical Holmes.
And the bank director, Mr. Merriweather, strategically lie in wait in the darkened bank vault. Holmes reassures them they're not very vulnerable from above nor from below, except for the one crucial point, the point of entry for the tunnel. The tension in that dark vault, waiting for the criminals to arrive, must have been suffocating.
Oh, absolutely. And the climax is absolutely gripping when the criminals finally make their move.
John Clay and his accomplice burst through the floor of the vault, only to be immediately apprehended. John Clay, ever the cool and composed criminal, even manages to compliment Holmes on how completely he had done the thing, acknowledging his defeat with a grudging respect. It's an incredibly satisfying conclusion, powerfully demonstrating Holmes's unparalleled ability to unravel the most convoluted and seemingly absurd criminal schemes by focusing on the seemingly insignificant details. This case perfectly showcases Holmes's ability to see the profound in the ridiculous.
And that's how a seemingly whimsical advertisement for redheads transforms into a foiled bank robbery. Pure, quintessential Sherlock Holmes. Okay, from an audacious bank heist, we turn to a darker, more intricate case, one steeped in family secrets and a deep sense of vengeance. The Boscombe Valley Mystery.
A good one.
This one centers on a son accused of murdering his own father, and the evidence against him seems, on the surface, incredibly damning.
A truly compelling aspect of this story is how Holmes challenges what appears to be an open and shut case. He articulates a profound truth. Circumstantial evidence is a very tricky thing. He explains that it may seem to point straight to one thing, but if you shift your view, it can point to something entirely different. The initial facts against young James McCarthy are indeed overwhelmingly damning, making his conviction seem almost inevitable.
The crime itself is brutal and shocking for a quiet rural setting. Charles McCarthy is discovered dead by Boscombe Pool, bludgeoned by a blunt object. His son, James McCarthy, is the one who found the body. He had blood on his clothes, his gun was nearby, and he openly admitted to a heated quarrel with his father just moments before the murder.
Right, it looks really bad for him.
It paints a very grim picture for James.
But it's precisely in James's testimony that Holmes finds the first threads of doubt. James recounted hearing a cooey, a common signal between him and his father, before he even saw his father.
Okay, that's odd.
Then his father mumbled a rat just before dying. James also distinctly saw a gray coat near the body that later vanished. And despite the coroner pressing him fiercely, knowing it would prejudice his case, James stubbornly refused to reveal the subject of their last quarrel.
Why would he do that?
Exactly. These seemingly minor inconsistencies are what Holmes latches onto. He immediately suspects there's a much deeper story at play, especially after speaking with Miss Turner, the daughter of the local landowner, who is steadfastly convinced of Dix's innocence.
Holmes' investigation at the crime scene is a masterclass in his meticulous approach, isn't it? What specific details does he focus on?
His attention to detail is truly unparalleled. He examines the crime scene with incredible precision, focusing intently on the footprints in the moist earth around the pool.
The footprints. Always the footprints.
He finds not only the distinctive prints of the father and son, but a crucial third set.
Tiptoes.
Tiptoes. Square, too. Quite unusual boots.
Oh, toes.
From these, he deduces that the person had a game leg, a limp, and was left-handed because the blow was struck from immediately behind but landed on the left side of the skull.
Wow, okay. Left-handed, limp.
He also discovers ash from an Indian cigar near a great beech tree, which he identifies with his expert knowledge, proudly stating it's a type he discussed in his monograph on 140 different varieties of pipe, cigar, and cigarette tobacco.
Of course, he wrote a monograph on cigar ash. So, for you, how does Holmes connect a left-handed man with a limp and an Indian cigar to a murder in a quiet English village? It's quite a jump for most.
Well, the crucial question here becomes, who could this mystery man be, and what is his connection to the victim? Holmes meticulously connects these seemingly unrelated dots, leading him to confront Mr. John Turner, Miss Turner's father, who is gravely ill and in the grip of some deadly and chronic disease like diabetes. It's a confrontation charged with immense emotional weight.
And that's when the shocking, tragic confession finally comes out.
Turner confesses to the murder. He reveals a dark, shared past with the victim, Charles McCarthy, in Australia. They were both members of the infamous Ballarat gang of highway robbers.
Highway robbers in Australia.
Yes. Turner, then known as Blackjack of Ballarat, had spared McCarthy's life decades ago when McCarthy was a wagon driver during a gold heist. It's a chilling piece of backstory that explains the lifelong connection.
What a history. So McCarthy had been relentlessly blackmailing Turner for years, living off his fear and guilt.
Precisely. McCarthy had been ruthlessly blackmailing Turner for 20 long years, living rent-free on Turner's land and constantly demanding money. The final, unbearable straw was McCarthy's attempt to pressure his own son, James, who, unbeknownst to his father, was secretly married to a barmaid and had just spent 3 days with her in Bristol.
Ah, that's what the quarrel was about.
Exactly. McCarthy wanted James to marry Turner's daughter, Alice. Turner, a dying man, couldn't bear his beloved daughter being drawn into McCarthy's depraved web, his soul in agony.
Understandable.
He confronted McCarthy at the pool and, in a moment of desperate rage, struck him from behind with a stone. McCarthy's dying word, a rat, was his desperate final attempt to identify Blackjack Turner, his old accomplice.
A rat. Ballarat.
Okay. And the gray coat was Turner's own overcoat, which he had dropped in his haste and retrieved after the murder. It's truly a complex web of long-buried secrets, past sins, and tragic vengeance.
It's an incredibly sad and profoundly human tale of past sins finally catching up, and the desperate measures one will take to protect those they love.
Indeed. Holmes uses this confession not to publicly condemn a dying man, but to help acquit James McCarthy, ensuring Turner's secret remains safe from public scrutiny. Turner eventually dies peacefully 7 months later, having confessed his sins, but leaving his daughter with her innocence intact.
Wow.
This case is a powerful example of Holmes prioritizing a deeper form of justice and preventing further unnecessary heartbreak, especially when the principal actor was already facing death. It shows his moral flexibility when the letter of the law might cause greater harm.
Okay, from the deep personal secrets of a troubled family, we shift to a grander, far more terrifying mystery with the 5 orange pips.
Ooh, this one's chilling.
This is one of those cases of profoundly impacted Holmes, a rare instance where he feels a palpable sense of urgency and, ultimately, a chilling feeling of being too late.
A truly compelling aspect of this story is the sheer audacity and efficiency of the attacks. It's a chain of events that screams premeditation and organized crime, yet the initial clues are so cryptic, almost nonsensical. Doyle masterfully sets the atmosphere, with the furious storm outside Baker Street on the night the client arrives, perfectly mirroring the dark and foreboding nature of the tale.
The client, John Openshaw, arrives on that stormy night, visibly terrified. His uncle, Elias Openshaw, had emigrated to Florida as a young man, became a prosperous planter, and was notably anti-black, a detail that becomes critically important.
Yes, very important.
Elias later returned to England, living a reclusive life at Horsham, maintaining a locked attic room and a brass box ominously marked with KKK.
KKK. Right. And then the chilling sequence of deaths begins. Elias receives an envelope containing the cryptic KKK and 5 dried orange pips. 7 weeks later, he dies, supposedly by an accidental fall into a chalk pit.
Suspiciously accidental.
His will left his estate, with all its advantages and all its disadvantages, to his brother, John's father.
And then the horror repeats itself. John's father, Joseph Openshaw, inherits the estate. He, too, receives an identical envelope with KKK and 5 orange pips, accompanied by the chilling instruction, put the papers on the sundial.
The papers.
He steadfastly refuses to go to the police, and he also dies, again by falling into a chalk pit, again deemed an accidental drowning.
The pattern is terrifying, and now John has received the very same message just 3 days prior to his desperate visit to Baker Street. He's understandably terrified, especially given the precise 7-week interval that preceded his uncle's death. The pattern is undeniable and terrifyingly consistent.
So what does this all mean? Orange pips? KKK. And why chalk pits or drowning? The clues seem almost nonsensical to a layman.
Well, the crucial question here becomes, what is the connection between these seemingly disparate elements? Holmes, drawing upon his vast knowledge, quickly deduces the involvement of the Ku Klux Klan, given Elias Openshaw's past in the southern states and the KKK inscription on the brass box and envelopes.
Makes sense.
He immediately advises John to retrieve the papers, which must relate to the KKK and were likely burned by his uncle in a moment of fear, and to place them on the sundial as instructed. He also urgently tells him to go to the police and warns him of very real and imminent danger, urging him to not lose an instant and that he cannot guard yourself too closely. The sense of impending doom is palpable.
But despite Holmes's urgent warning and clear advice, the story takes a tragic turn.
Indeed. Despite Holmes's fervent counsel and John's assurances that he was armed and would be cautious, John Openshaw is found dead the very next morning, drowned near Waterloo Bridge. Again, it's quickly dismissed as an unfortunate accident by the police. Holmes is visibly agitated, his face flushing upon his sallow cheeks, pacing in uncontrollable agitation. Watson recalls his lament. "Holmes, I cried, you are too late." It's a rare moment of profound frustration for the detective, a testament to the KKK's ruthless efficiency, and a haunting reminder that even his genius can sometimes arrive after tragedy has already unfolded.
This is one of those incredibly rare cases where Holmes truly feels he was too late, a burden that clearly weighs on him.
Absolutely. Driven by a deep sense of responsibility and a thirst for justice, Holmes sets out on a very busy day to track down the culprits. He meticulously searches Lloyd's registers and old newspaper files, looking for ships that touched Pondicherry in early '83, the approximate time of Elias's death.
Okay, connecting the dates.
His breakthrough comes when he identifies the Lone Star, a sailing ship of American origin, reported in Dundee in '85 around the time of Joseph's death, and now chillingly docked in London.
So the ship, the Lone Star, becomes the critical link in this chilling chain of events.
The revelation is truly chilling. The precise time interval between the Openshaws receiving the pips and their subsequent deaths correlates perfectly with the sailing time of the Lone Star. Holmes deduces that the KKK members are traveling on this ship, systematically eliminating anyone who possesses documents that could incriminate them, documents likely related to Elias's past activities in which he had refused to surrender.
Wow, relentless. And what's Holmes's final act of justice for the Openshaw family? It becomes a thrilling chase across the Atlantic, doesn't it?
His final act is a desperate attempt at posthumous justice. He sends a letter containing 5 orange pips addressed to the 3 known members of the Lone Star.
Giving them a taste of their own medicine.
Exactly. He includes instructions for the letter to be cabled to the Savannah police upon the ship's arrival in the United States, formally charging them with murder. The ultimate irony and a chilling piece of Doyle's narrative is that justice in this case is delivered not by human hands, but by the relentless power of nature itself. The Lone Star is lost in an equinoctial gale, a violent storm, with only a shattered stern post bearing the letters LS ever found.
Wow. Divine intervention almost.
It's a stark and powerful reminder of the far-reaching and often unpunished consequences of past actions, and the unyielding deadly reach of certain secret societies, even across continents. It's a truly haunting conclusion.
Definitely one of the darker ones. Okay, from the treacherous high seas and shadowy secret societies, we plunge into the murky depths of London's opium dens for our next case, The Man with the Twisted Lip.
Ah, the power of disguise again.
This extraordinary narrative reveals a hidden life of deception so profound it truly astounds you and challenges perceptions of identity.
A compelling aspect of this story is how it begins with a desperate plea from Mrs. St. Clair, whose respectable husband, Neville St. Clair, has vanished after she saw him in a window of a seedy opium den in Swandam Lane.
Not where you expect a respectable man.
Not at all. It's a shocking setting for a supposedly upstanding family man. Watson even encounters Holmes already there, disguised as an old, impoverished man attempting to extract fragments of truth from the incoherent ramblings of these sots.
The disappearance itself is utterly bizarre, isn't it? Mrs. St. Clair sees her husband, Neville, looking agitated and beckoning from a second-floor window. He vanishes quickly from view. Inside the squalid room, she finds only a crippled wretch of hideous aspect named Hugh Boone.
Boone, yeah.
And chillingly, her husband's clothes neatly piled behind a curtain as if he'd simply shed his identity.
And the evidence only compounds the mystery and seemingly the guilt. Bloodstains are discovered on the windowsill and floor, and Neville's coat is later found in the river mud below the window, which is covered at high tide, suggesting a body might have been swept away.
So the police think Boone killed him and threw him out the window.
Exactly. The police, led by Inspector Bradstreet, are convinced it's a straightforward case of murder, with the cripple Hugh Boone as the prime suspect.
So for you, a man disappears. His clothes are found, blood is everywhere, and a peculiar cripple is the only witness. What does Holmes make of this seemingly cut-and-dried scenario?
Well, the crucial question here becomes, what kind of cripple could possibly overpower a man in the prime of life, as Neville St. Clair was described? Holmes immediately senses a deeper game at play.
Right.
He continues his investigation, observing the cripple Hugh Boone, described as walking with a limp but otherwise appearing powerful and well-nurtured, an unusual physique for a professional beggar.
Contradictory.
Holmes's keen eye notes details like Boone's pinpoint pupils, suggestive of opium use, but also his remarkable control, implying more than mere addiction.
But the ultimate aha moment for Holmes, the one that completely galvanizes him and shifts his entire perspective, comes days later, not from the crime scene, but from a mundane delivery.
Exactly. Days later, Mrs. St. Clair receives a letter from her husband after his supposed death.
The letter from beyond the grave.
This is the singular clue that shatters the police's theory. Holmes's examination of the letter is meticulous. He notices the envelope was addressed by someone who had to inquire about the address, and that the flap has been gummed by a person who had been chewing tobacco.
Okay, specific details.
This tells him that while the enclosure might be from her husband, someone else, likely the Lascar den keeper, was involved in its delayed delivery. But the true game changer is what Holmes finds in the bathroom, a seemingly ordinary place.
A letter from a supposedly dead man. This changes everything. And Holmes famously finds the key to the entire puzzle in the bathroom. Tell us more.
Precisely. Holmes deduces with startling clarity that the cripple Hugh Boone is Neville St. Clair.
No, really.
Yes. The key he discovers in the bathroom is crucial for Boone's rapid transformation, and this is where the intricate deception is revealed.
So what was this elaborate deception all about? Why would a respectable family man adopt such a grotesque double life?
Neville St. Clair, facing severe and unadmitted financial difficulties and too proud to confess his struggles to his wife, had adopted a double life as a beggar.
A beggar?
He discovered that begging, performed in disguise, was astonishingly lucrative, far more so than his legitimate business. He would transform himself into the disfigured Hugh Boone using a sophisticated combination of makeup, a wig, and cleverly applied plaster to twist his lip into a permanent grimace.
Wow.
He had successfully maintained this secret for years, earning no less than 26 fourpence in a single day, a fortune compared to his dwindling legitimate income. It's a profound commentary on the economic pressures and social expectations of the era.
And the disappearance from the opium den, how did that play into the deception?
Mrs. St. Clair's unexpected appearance at the opium den forced him into a desperate, rapid transformation. He quickly discarded his gentleman's clothes, donned his beggar's disguise, and upon realizing the room might be searched, he flung his discarded clothing out the window into the river below.
Ah, the coat in the mud.
Exactly. He then escaped into the river himself, sustaining only a minor cut on his ring finger, which accounted for the bloodstains. The letter she received was a prearranged signal given to the Lascar den keeper to reassure his wife, but its delayed delivery caused her agonizing suspense.
It's an incredible story of human pride. The desperate measures people will take to maintain appearances, even to the extreme of faking their own death and living a double life.
It truly is. And this story also powerfully highlights Holmes's pragmatism and his profound sense of compassion beyond the letter of the law.
Yeah, how so?
Rather than public prosecution, which would utterly ruin St. Clair and his family, Holmes quietly arranges for the police to drop the case, allowing St. Clair to maintain his secret life. This prevents scandal and protects his children from immense shame.
That's unusual for Holmes sometimes.
It is. Holmes, after confirming his theory, tells St. Clair, "You would have done better to have trusted your wife," to which St. Clair responds, "It was not the wife, it was the children. God help me, I would not have them ashamed of their father." Holmes sees the deeper human cost and acts with a quiet yet profound mercy, prioritizing the family's future over a strict legal triumph.
Okay, for our next deep dive, we're stepping into a delightful Christmas mystery that begins with something as mundane as a lost hat and a goose.
A classic.
It rapidly escalates to involve one of the most famous and priceless jewels in England. The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle is a masterclass in how the seemingly trivial can unravel monumental crimes.
A compelling aspect of this story is how Holmes demonstrates his belief that it is frequently in its least important and lowliest manifestations that the keenest pleasure is to be derived. A lost goose might appear utterly trivial, but in Holmes's hands, it becomes the key to unraveling a high-profile jewel theft and exposing the devil's pet baits, those priceless gems that are often the nucleus and focus of crime. It's a testament to his principle of finding universal truths in small details.
The initial clues are certainly unassuming enough. Peterson, a commissionaire, brings Holmes a rather ordinary black felt hat and a goose, both found after a street scuffle on Christmas morning in Tottenham Court Road.
Holmes, ever the astute observer, immediately sets about deducing from the hat itself. This is a classic demonstration of his observational skills.
Hat deductions are always fun.
From the hat's size, its worn but respectable condition, and the quality of details like the band of rigged silk and excellent lining, Holmes initially constructs a detailed profile. The owner is an intellectual, middle-aged, declining in fortunes with foresight, evidenced by the little disc and loop of the hat securer. But now with less moral judgment, and whose wife has, sadly, ceased to love him. These deductions are often presented with a dry humor, as Watson struggles to follow Holmes's intricate leaps of logic.
But then, the real shocker happens, completely transforming the direction of the case.
The unexpected discovery occurs when Peterson, back home and carving the goose for his Christmas dinner, finds a brilliantly scintillating blue stone in its crop.
In the goose.
It's the Countess of Morcar's blue carbuncle, a truly priceless jewel that was recently stolen from the Hotel Cosmopolitan. A plumber, John Horner, was wrongly accused and arrested for its theft, based on strong, yet ultimately misleading, circumstantial evidence.
This instantly escalates the stakes. The humble Christmas goose now holds a royal treasure, and more importantly, an innocent man is languishing in jail.
It forces Holmes to critically reassess his initial hat deductions, acknowledging that while his method of observation is sound, the human element can lead to misinterpretations.
Right. The wife bit was wrong.
Exactly. The hat owner, Mr. Henry Baker, turns out to be a simple, honest man, utterly unaware of the gem's presence. Holmes, ever resourceful, places an advertisement to find the goose's original owner, and Baker promptly arrives to claim his bird or what's left of it. Holmes's initial assessment of Baker's character is humorously off the mark, a rare moment of fallibility that humanizes Holmes.
So, with the original owner cleared, how does Holmes meticulously trace the true criminal and the journey of this precious feathered container?
Holmes and Watson then embark on a systematic, almost forensic tracing of the goose's journey, interviewing various dealers in the London poultry trade. They follow the trail from Henry Baker to the Alpha Inn, the pub where he bought it.
Okay.
Then to Breckenridge, a Covent Garden poulterer who sold it to the pub, and finally to Mrs. Oakshott in Brixton, a goose breeder who supplied the poultry. Each step brings them closer to the surprising truth.
And who do they finally find at Mrs. Oakshott's, and what's the big, almost comical reveal of the true criminal?
This is where the story truly becomes interesting. They find James Ryder, the head commissionaire at the Hotel Cosmopolitan where the jewel was stolen.
The hotel employee.
Ryder, confronted by Holmes's piercing intellect, breaks down and confesses. He, along with the Countess's maid, Catherine Cusack, stole the carbuncle. In a moment of sheer panic and desperation, Ryder decided to hide the jewel by cramming the jewel down the throat of one of his sister's geese, specifically a white one with a barred tail.
Okay, very specific goose.
However, in his extreme agitation and haste, he picked up the wrong goose, mistakenly leaving the valuable carbuncle-carrying bird to be sold in the market, which eventually, through a series of accidental sales, found its way to Henry Baker.
What an astonishing mix-up, a sheer stroke of luck for Holmes. And what is Ryder's ultimate fate? Holmes's decision here is quite distinctive.
Holmes chooses a path of striking mercy. Rather than prosecuting Ryder, he lets him go.
Really? After all that?
Yes. He believes Ryder's terror and the profound shock of his crime being exposed are punishment enough, noting, with a touch of moralizing, "It is very well to cringe and crawl now, but you thought little enough of this poor Horner in the dock for a crime of which he knew nothing."
Ah, so releasing Ryder frees the innocent man.
Precisely. More importantly, Holmes's decision ensures that an innocent man, John Horner, will be freed from prison, as Ryder's confession completely exonerates him. It's a powerful example of Holmes valuing a deeper sense of justice over strict legal procedure, especially when the greater good and the clearing of an innocent name are at stake. It shows a compassionate side to his otherwise purely logical persona.
Now brace yourselves for perhaps one of the most chilling and iconic Sherlock Holmes mysteries in the entire canon. The Adventure of the Speckled Band.
The Speckled Band,
Yeah,
yes.
this one truly plunges us into the sinister depths of a twisted family secret and features a truly diabolical and unique murder plot.
A truly compelling aspect of this narrative is the sheer audacity of the crime and the utterly unique weapon involved. It's a testament to Holmes's imaginative and precise deductions, his ability to see beyond the obvious and discern something truly sinister and unforeseen at play. The story sets a standard for the gothic and macabre in detective fiction.
The client is Helen Stoner, who visits Holmes in a state of extreme fear and palpable dread. She and her twin sister, Julia, lived with their stepfather, Dr. Grimesby Roylott,
A terrifying figure.
a man infamous for his violent temper and a bizarre penchant for keeping exotic, dangerous animals imported from India, including a baboon, a cheetah, and, as we'll soon learn, venomous snakes. Roylott is described as a man of immense strength and absolute uncontrollable in his anger.
And Julia died under very mysterious and terrifying circumstances, didn't she? Just 2 years prior, shortly before her own wedding.
Right before her wedding.
She screamed in the dead of night, exclaiming, "It was the Speckled Band," and then collapsed and died with no apparent signs of violence or poison.
The Speckled Band.
It's cryptic. Now, Helen herself is engaged to a major in the Marines, and due to supposed repairs to her room, she's been forced to sleep in Julia's old bedroom. There, she recently heard the exact same low whistle that preceded her sister's death.
Oh, chilling.
This eerie repetition forces her to seek Holmes's help, terrified that she is next. The sense of a ticking clock for Helen is overwhelming.
The tension in this story is palpable from the outset. And Holmes, even before he reaches Stoke Moran, has to contend with Dr. Roylott himself, who makes an incredibly intimidating appearance right at Baker Street.
Roylott makes his presence known immediately and dramatically, following Helen directly to Holmes's rooms. He issues a chilling threat to Holmes, bending a steel poker with his bare hands as a show of force, daring the detective to keep yourself out of my grip.
Bending a poker. Wow.
It's a chilling display of his physical power and violent, unhinged disposition, setting a deeply unsettling tone for the investigation.
So Holmes and Watson travel to Stoke Moran to investigate. What specific, seemingly innocuous details does Holmes find in the bedroom that ultimately provide him the key to unraveling this terrifying mystery?
In Julia's, now Helen's, bedroom, Holmes observes a series of seemingly mundane yet crucial clues. He notices a dummy bell rope hanging near the bed that doesn't actually work or connect to anything.
A fake bell rope. Why?
The bed itself is clamped firmly to the floor, meaning it cannot be moved. There's a small ventilator connecting the bedroom directly to Dr. Roylott's room. A peculiar structural detail.
A vent between the rooms.
Okay. And finally, a dog lash, or whip, is tied in a loop hanging by the bed. In Roylott's own room, Holmes spots a saucer of milk and a leash, which, combined with the presence of his exotic and dangerous animals, begins to paint a truly disturbing picture for Holmes's keen mind.
So for you, how do a fake bell rope, a bolted-down bed, a small opening, and a dog whip all connect to a murder? What sinister truth does Holmes piece together from these oddities?
Well, the crucial question here becomes, why these specific, seemingly inexplicable oddities in a bedroom? Holmes meticulously pieces together the chilling truth. The Speckled Band refers to a highly venomous snake, specifically an Indian swamp adder, one of the deadliest and fastest-striking snakes.
A snake. Of course.
Dr. Roylott had trained the snake to crawl through the small ventilator, slither down the dummy bell rope, and bite whoever was sleeping in the bed.
Down the rope. Incredible.
The low whistle Helen heard was the signal for the snake to return to Roylott's room, and the metallic clang was the sound of Roylott securing his heavy iron safe where he kept the snake, preventing its escape into the house. It's a truly diabolical and ingenious method.
And what was Dr. Roylott's twisted motive for devising such a cruel and complex murder plan against his own stepdaughters?
Roylott's motive was purely financial, driven by his dwindling family fortune. His late wife's will stipulated that her daughters, Helen and Julia, would receive a significant annual sum upon marriage, not less than £1,000 a year.
The money.
By systematically preventing their marriages, first Julia's and then Helen's, he retained the full income from her estate. He had murdered Julia and was now attempting to murder Helen for this very financial gain, ensuring his continued control over the inheritance. It's a stark illustration of extreme greed.
It's a truly diabolical plan, executed with such cold calculation.
The climax is incredibly intense and fraught with danger. Holmes and Watson wait in the darkened room, listening intently. They hear the ominous, low whistle, the snake emerges.
Oh, God.
And Holmes strikes it furiously with his cane, driving it back through the ventilator. The snake, enraged and disoriented, then turns on Dr. Roylott himself, breeding him and causing his swift and agonizing death.
Turned on its master.
Exactly. Holmes takes a measured view of the outcome, stating that he is indirectly responsible, but justifies it as Roylott's own evil returning to him, noting, with his characteristic pragmatism, "I cannot say that it is likely to weigh very heavily upon my conscience." It's a grim but satisfying end to a truly horrific scheme.
Definitely satisfying. Okay, next, we encounter a mystery steeped in industrial intrigue and a violent, shocking assault. The Adventure of the Engineer's Thumb.
Right, the severed thumb.
This narrative begins with a truly gruesome injury that immediately signals to us that something is profoundly, irrevocably wrong.
A compelling aspect of this story is how the victim himself, Victor Hatherley, an orphan and a bachelor, becomes an integral, if traumatized, part of solving the puzzle. His observations, though confused and made in a state of terror and pain, are absolutely crucial, highlighting Holmes's skill in extracting truth from fragmented eyewitness testimony.
The gruesome start is quite the hook, isn't it? Dr. Watson is visited by Victor Hatherley, a hydraulic engineer whose thumb has been cleanly severed. He describes it with horrifying precision. A horrid red, spongy surface where the thumb should have been. It had been hacked or torn right out from the roots.
Yeah, vivid.
It's a shocking entry point into the mystery.
Hatherley recounts a job offer that was as bizarre as it was lucrative. 50 guineas for just an hour's work inspecting a hydraulic press.
50 guineas. For an hour.
The conditions were even stranger. The inspection was to occur at midnight at a secluded location with extreme secrecy and a non-disclosure agreement. He was driven there in a carriage with frosted glass, taking a long, winding route, clearly designed to conceal the location and disorient him. The sheer absurdity of the offer and the strict secrecy immediately point to something highly irregular.
And who did he encounter at this mysterious, isolated location?
He met Colonel Lysander Stark, a very thin German man, with an unsettling intensity and a beautiful but visibly terrified German woman. Stark claimed the press was for compressing Fuller's earth into bricks.
Fuller's earth.
Hatherley, however, being a professional engineer, immediately noticed crucial discrepancies. The press was unusually clean for working with earth, and he heard distinct sounds like the clank of the levers and the swish of the leaking cylinder, which were inconsistent with a Fuller's earth operation. He suspected it was actually a metal press.
His expertise gave it away. And that's when his suspicions, once voiced, turned this strange job into a nightmare of violence.
Precisely. The German woman, displaying an act of quiet courage, secretly warned Hatherley to flee, whispering, "I would go." When Hatherley voiced his suspicions directly to Stark, the colonel's amiable facade shattered. Stark attempted to crush him with the very hydraulic press he was meant to inspect, slamming the door and locking it. Hatherley, in a desperate struggle for survival, escaped through a sliding panel, but his thumb was severed by a cleaver wielded by Stark as he fled.
Just hacked it off.
The woman again showed compassion, helping him get out of the house, where he promptly fainted from shock and blood loss. He later woke up by a railway station, implying he had been transported back, further obscuring the location.
For you, why would anyone go to such extreme, violent lengths to prevent an engineer from seeing a Fuller's earth press? What were they truly hiding?
Well, the crucial question here becomes, what were they really doing with a powerful hydraulic press under such secretive, murderous circumstances? Holmes, synthesizing Hatherley's fragmented account, quickly deduces the truth. The Fuller's earth was an elaborate, flimsy cover story. The hydraulic press was, in reality, being used for counterfeiting money.
Counterfeiting, of course.
The clanking sounds Hatherley heard, consistent with metalwork and the unblemished nature of the machinery, which would be covered in dust if working with earth, pointed to illegal metal forging. The extreme secrecy, the midnight operation, and the attempt to murder him when he grew suspicious further confirmed this was no ordinary legitimate business. The isolated location, Dr. Beecher's house, a thinly veiled cover for the actual owner, was the center of this illicit counterfeiting operation.
And what's the resolution to this extraordinary violent narrative? Do the criminals face justice?
Holmes, Watson, and Inspector Bradstreet pursue the criminals to Eyford, where the house was located, only to find the structure engulfed in flames.
They torched it.
The criminals, realizing their cover was blown, had brained it down to destroy all evidence and make their escape. They managed to elude immediate capture, but their entire operation was dismantled. Holmes, ever the realist, notes that while they got away for the moment, they were very old hands and would eventually be caught again. It's a case that ends with a grim sense of justice served, even if the culprits evade immediate capture, knowing their criminal enterprise has been effectively destroyed.
Okay, from the dark world of industrial crime and violent counterfeiting, we shift gears to a high society scandal that unfolds in The Adventure of the Noble Bachelor.
Ah, the disappearing bride.
This is a fascinating case of a vanishing bride that initially throws Scotland Yard completely off course, leaving them quite literally dragging a river for clues.
A truly compelling aspect of this story is how Holmes, with only a few key pieces of information, sees the solution with striking clarity, while others, particularly Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard, are utterly baffled by what they perceive as an inexplicable disappearance.
Lestrade's always baffled.
It's a perfect example of his unique ability to discern profound truths in seemingly commonplace or ambiguous events.
The setup is pure drama, isn't it? Lord Robert St. Simon, a noble bachelor, is marrying the incredibly wealthy American heiress Hattie Doran. But their wedding breakfast is suddenly disrupted when Hattie vanishes without a trace, right in the midst of the festivities.
And Lestrade's theory, as you mentioned, is the typical, obvious, and ultimately incorrect one. He's convinced of foul play and has already arrested Flora Miller, a former dancer and previous acquaintance of Lord St. Simon, believing she decoyed the bride and murdered her.
The jilted lover trope.
Exactly. Lestrade is even going to the extreme of dragging the Serpentine River for a body, despite Holmes's dry, almost mocking suggestion that he might as well drag the basin of Trafalgar Square fountain for the same likelihood of success. It highlights the fundamental difference in their investigative approaches.
So for you, a jilted lover, a missing bride, and a river search party. It sounds like the classic narrative of jealousy and revenge. Why does Holmes immediately dismiss this as very unlikely?
Well, the crucial question here becomes, if not foul play or murder, then what explains such a dramatic disappearance from a wedding? Holmes immediately focuses on the seemingly minor details from the wedding day itself, details that others overlooked or dismissed as insignificant.
What could a dropped bouquet possibly have to do with a disappearing bride? That seems like an almost absurd detail to focus on.
This is where Holmes's unique brilliance shines. He identifies several crucial clues that, once connected, reveal the whole truth. First, at the wedding ceremony itself, Hattie dropped her bouquet, and a man in a pew quickly picked it up and returned it.
Okay, the man in the pew.
Second, Hattie was unusually quiet, withdrawn, and even melancholy after the ceremony. Third, she had a brief, whispered conversation with her maid, Alice, and then a more public interaction with Flora Miller outside the house. Holmes explains that the bouquet drop was a deliberate and transparent device for Hattie to receive a crucial note from the man in the pew. Her whispered conversation with the maid was to confirm their new plans, and the public interaction with Flora Miller likely served as a diversion, drawing attention away from her true intentions.
The diversion, okay.
The absolute key, the term that confirms his theory, was found in a note near the scene. Claim jumping, a mining term, meaning taking possession of that which another person has a prior claim to.
So she was already married. That's what claim jumping implies in this context.
Precisely. That term immediately signaled to Holmes that this wasn't a simple disappearance, but a dispute over ownership or rights, directly echoing the legalities of marriage in the era. It's a beautiful piece of linguistic foreshadowing embedded within the text.
Clever.
Holmes then arranges for Mr. and Mrs. Francis Hay Moulton to arrive at Baker Street. Mrs. Moulton is, in fact, revealed to be Hattie Doran herself.
Hattie Doran is Mrs. Moulton, and with her full, remarkable story behind this disappearance.
Hattie confesses that she had secretly married Frank Moulton years ago in America. He later disappeared and was presumed dead in an Apache attack.
Apache attack. Wow.
Believing herself a widow, she traveled to London and, after a period of mourning, became engaged to Lord St. Simon. However, Frank, who had miraculously escaped captivity, tracked her to the very church on her wedding day.
He found her at the wedding.
They reunited, and she, choosing her true love, chose her first husband, Frank, whom she called her true wedding after all those years of waiting. It's a tale of enduring love and incredible happenstance.
And Lord St. Simon's reaction to all of this must have been one of utter mortification and humiliation.
He is, understandably, mortified and deeply humiliated by the public slight. However, Holmes, with his characteristic discretion, ensures the matter is handled as quietly as possible to avoid further public scandal. He reminds Lord St. Simon that he cannot allow that there is any humiliation, simply an accident where the lady could not have acted otherwise.
Smoothing things over.
It's a powerful testament to Holmes's ability to see beyond the obvious, to uncover the underlying human truths and emotional complexities, and to protect reputations where possible, often bending the strict letter of the law for a more compassionate outcome.
Our next deep dive takes us into the rarefied world of high finance and even higher stakes with The Adventure of the Beryl Coronet.
Ah, the coronet. High stakes indeed.
This is a profoundly dramatic story involving a national treasure, a desperate banker, and a mystery that seems almost unequivocally to implicate his own beloved son.
A truly compelling aspect of this narrative is the immediate, palpable human drama. Mr. Alexander Holder, a respected and utterly distraught banker, comes to Holmes in a state of utter despair, convinced his son, Arthur, has betrayed him and potentially ruined his family's honor and his impeccable reputation.
He's devastated.
Holder literally beats his head against the wall, distraught, lamenting, "I have lost my honor, my gems, and my son in one night." His anguish is immediate and profound.
The setup for this crime is incredibly intense and high stakes. A very important client, implied to be royalty.
Yes.
Heavily implied.
Pawns the priceless Beryl Coronet, a national treasure adorned with 39 enormous barrels to Holder. Holder for an immense sum, £50,000. Holder, understanding its immense value and trust placed in him, brings the coronet home, securing it in his bureau, a place he believed to be absolutely impregnable.
And then the disaster strikes overnight. Holder is abruptly awoken by a noise. He rushes downstairs and finds his son Arthur holding the coronet, seemingly attempting to bend it, with 3 precious barrels missing.
Caught red-handed.
Arthur denies the theft with unwavering conviction, but stubbornly refuses to explain himself or his actions, leading inevitably to his arrest. The circumstantial evidence against him is overwhelming.
For you, how could a son, supposedly loving and devoted, betray his father so profoundly and then remain stubbornly silent, even when facing ruin? Well, the crucial question here becomes, why would Arthur, despite being caught red-handed and facing complete disgrace, refuse to clear his name or offer any explanation? Holmes immediately suspects there's a deeper, more profound reason for Arthur's silence, a loyalty so powerful that it overrides his own self-preservation.
He's protecting someone.
Exactly. He intuitively understands that Arthur's silence must be an act of protection for someone he loves deeply.
So Holmes begins his signature meticulous investigation. What crucial clues does he find at Scotland Yard, focused on the obvious, completely missed in the fresh snow outside?
Holmes examines the crime scene outside the house with unparalleled meticulousness, focusing intently on the fresh snow. He finds not only Arthur's distinct barefoot prints, confirming he was indeed out there,
Barefoot in the snow.
but also a crucial second set of tracks, a distinct set of boot prints belonging to another man. He also observes that the bureau lock was noiseless, explaining why Holder hadn't heard the initial tampering. The combination of the mysterious footprints and Arthur's unwavering, selfless silence points Holmes directly towards a far more complex and heartbreaking truth.
So for you, who wore those mysterious boots in the snow, and how does that unravel the entire crime?
This is where Holmes's true genius reveals itself. He deduces that Mary, Holder's quiet, seemingly devoted niece, is the true culprit, or at least the primary accomplice.
The niece, not the son.
She is secretly infatuated with and effectively manipulated by Sir George Burnwell, a man with a truly evil reputation among women, known for his unscrupulous character.
Ah, the cad. And the true sequence of events once revealed is incredibly heartbreaking for the family, a profound intertwining of love, betrayal, and greed.
Mary, after Holder retired for the night, secretly met Burnwell outside through a window in the stable lane. Burnwell's footprints were pressed right through the snow, clearly indicating how long and impatiently he had waited.
Okay,
Mary, in her infatuation and perhaps desperate for his affection, told him about the coronet's presence. Burnwell, driven by his wicked lust for gold, convinced her to help him. He broke into the bureau, quickly took 3 barrels, but was interrupted by Arthur, who heard the disturbance.
So Arthur caught Burnwell.
Arthur struggled with Burnwell in the snow, which accounts for the struggle marks and bloodstains. But Burnwell, being larger and more ruthless, escaped with the gems. Arthur, finding the damaged coronet, picked it up with the intention of replacing it and preventing further damage, and was caught by his father in that compromising position. He remained silent throughout, sacrificing his own reputation to protect Mary, whom he loved deeply and without question.
A truly heartbreaking situation for the family, a devastating intersection of unrequited love, betrayal, and immense familial pressure.
Indeed. Holmes, in a remarkable display of his unique brand of justice, confronts Burnwell and successfully buys back the missing gems for £1,000 apiece.
He buys them back.
Yes. Arthur is completely exonerated, his name cleared, and while Mary ultimately runs off with the scoundrel Burnwell, the priceless coronet is restored, and a major public scandal for the banking world is averted. It's a powerful example of Holmes unraveling a complex web of familial love, profound betrayal, and base greed, using his discretion to ensure that the spirit of justice is served, even if it means bending the strict letter of the law to achieve a better outcome.
Our final deep dive brings us to The Adventure of the Copper Beeches, a case that chillingly illustrates how seemingly innocent peculiarities and eccentric demands can mask a truly sinister and psychologically manipulative plot hidden within a seemingly respectable family.
A truly compelling aspect of this story is the sheer strangeness of the job offer itself. It immediately sets off alarm bells for Holmes, who rightly points out that such an exorbitant salary for a governess, combined with truly bizarre stipulations, is too good to be true and makes him profoundly uneasy.
Like the red-headed league salary.
Exactly. He correctly suspects, as he often does, that there must be some strong reason behind such an unusually generous offer for what appears to be a mundane position.
The client, Violet Hunter, a governess by profession, consults Holmes because she's been offered an unbelievably lucrative position, £120 a year, which is 4 times the normal rate for a governess at Copper Beeches, the Rewcastle family's sprawling estate.
But the job comes with truly bizarre and unsettling demands. She must wear a specific electric blue dress.
Electric blue, okay.
Sit in specific seats in the drawing room with her back to the window during certain hours, and initially was even asked to cut her beautiful hair very short, though they relented on this point after her refusal.
Cut her hair. Why?
The Rewcastles themselves are equally odd. Mr. Rewcastle is jovial, but has unsettling moments of sudden, fierce anger. Mrs. Rewcastle is perpetually silent and pale, almost ghostly. They have a peculiar young son, Edward, who finds joy in shooting small birds with a catapult.
Charming kid.
And they keep a ferocious, constantly hungry mastiff named Carlo, deliberately underfed once a day, and not too much then, so that he is always as keen as mustard, to keep him aggressive and dangerous.
So for you, what do a special blue dress, specific seating arrangements, a hungry, aggressive dog, and such strange family members all point to? What could possibly be the underlying truth behind these peculiar demands?
Well, the crucial question here becomes, why all these strange rules and bizarre peculiarities for a governess? Holmes quickly suspects the Rewcastles are hiding something significant, and that the extraordinarily high salary and odd demands are merely parts of an elaborate, cruel charade. Miss Hunter herself, proving to be quite observant, notices even more disturbing things during her stay.
What else does Violet observe that deepens her suspicions and pulls her, and us, further into the heart of this mystery?
She soon realizes that the specific seating arrangement with her back to the window is deliberate. Using a hand mirror, she catches a glimpse of a man looking intently at the house from the road.
Oh, the man outside.
A man whom Mrs. Rewcastle quickly alerts her husband about, causing Rewcastle to react with alarm. She also discovers a locked, unused wing of the house with perpetually shuttered windows. Mr. Rewcastle claims it's his dark room for photography, but his immediate angry reaction to her inquiry, his brow, all crinkled with anger, is highly suspicious.
Definitely hiding something.
Intrepidly, Miss Hunter uses a key she finds to explore the locked wing and discovers a room with a skylight, a shadowy figure within, and hears distinct footsteps, confirming her terrifying suspicion that someone is being held captive.
Sounds like a horrific scenario, someone being held captive in their own home. What is the Rewcastle's ultimate game here?
Precisely. Holmes, synthesizing all these oddities and Miss Hunter's brave observations, deduces the chilling truth. The Rucastles are imprisoning their own daughter, Alice, who is engaged to a Mr. Fowler.
Their daughter.
They deeply disapproved of the marriage and confined her to prevent her from marrying. Why? Because her mother's fortune stipulated that Alice would receive a substantial annual sum upon her marriage. By preventing this, the Rucastles retained full control of the income.
So the bizarre rules, the blue dress, and Violet's resemblance to Alice were all part of an elaborate, cruel deception meant to mislead Mr. Fowler.
Yes, it's a chilling psychological manipulation. They deliberately hired governesses who physically resembled Alice, forcing them to wear Alice's old clothes, including that distinctive blue dress, and sit in her usual spots with their backs to the window.
Oh, that's twisted.
This was a calculated deception designed to make Mr. Fowler, who would occasionally come to look at the house from the road, believe that Alice was still there, but that she had willingly broken off their engagement and was living a happy, normal life, when in reality she was a prisoner.
And the climax of this sinister plan must have been incredibly intense.
It was. Holmes, Watson, and Miss Hunter, armed with the truth, break into the locked room, only to find it empty.
Empty. She got away.
Alice, with the help of Mr. Fowler, whom she met through the window, has managed to escape through the skylight. Mr. Rucastle, enraged by his foiled plan, releases the ferocious mastiff, Carlo, to attack them.
Oh no, the dog.
Watson, in a desperate act of self-defense, shoots the dog, killing it. Rucastle himself is severely mauled by the dog in the struggle, but survives, albeit as a broken man, described as living but horribly mangled, a fittingly grim consequence of his own monstrous actions.
Wow. Mauled by his own starving dog. And what becomes of the Rucastles after their plans are utterly foiled?
Rucastle is utterly defeated, his cruel schemes shattered. Alice and Mr. Fowler are finally free to marry, and Miss Hunter finds a more suitable position, free from such chilling peculiarities. It's a complex and deeply disturbing case that vividly exposes a family's desperate and cruel attempt to control their daughter's life for financial gain, showing the darker, more manipulative side of human nature and the extreme lengths to which some will go to maintain a deceitful charade. It truly leaves you pondering the depths of human depravity for personal gain.
And there you have it. What an extraordinary journey through the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. We've dissected brilliant deductions, exposed cunning criminals, and explored the depths of human nature, all through the lens of one of literature's most enduring figures.
It's truly incredible how these stories, penned over a century ago, continue to captivate and reveal new layers of insight. They don't just solve mysteries, they probe the very fabric of society and the human psyche. Doyle's genius lies not just in the how of the crime, but the why of human action.
Absolutely. Each case is a miniature masterpiece, demonstrating that even the most obscure details can unlock the grandest secrets. And for you, as listeners, perhaps the next time you encounter a curious detail in your own life, you'll pause and ask yourself, what would Holmes observe here?
It's a challenge to see beyond the obvious, to find the story in the smallest of clues. That, perhaps, is the true enduring legacy of Sherlock Holmes. Not just the brilliant solutions, but the constant invitation to look deeper, to think critically, and to find the extraordinary in the seemingly ordinary.
A wonderful thought to leave us with. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us and this story. If you enjoyed it, a simple like or subscribe helps the channel out more than you know. Be good and take care.